But the big story coming out of the show was the show closing angle. Just like on SmackDown, it was the show opening angle. On Dynamite, it was the show closing angle. With Chris Jericho and the Inner Circle confronting Mike Tyson and his entourage. Mike Tyson was out there on Saturday night to present the winner of the TNT title match with the championship. He did not get physical. He took his shirt off. He threatened to go after Jake the Snake. He did not get physical. Did not throw a punch. He presented Cody with the title, and I thought that would be it. And then they announced that he was going to be on Dynamite on Wednesday. And I said, all right, well, maybe they are going to do some sort of angle involving Mike Tyson, even if it's just a knockout spot, like he did with Shawn Michaels all those many years ago. And he also did with Chris Jericho many years ago. Tyson comes out with his entourage that included UFC, or I guess former UFC fighters, Henry Cejudo, Vitor Belfort, Rashad Evans was out there. I missed him on Wednesday. I did not mention him, but he was there too. And what they tried to do here, Jericho brought up the incident involving them from Monday Night Raw without saying Raw. He said on a certain Monday night 10 years ago. It was 10 years ago, back in 2010. If you remember, Mike Tyson was the guest host of Monday Night Raw. He tagged with Jericho. He was technically in a match. He tagged with Jericho in the main event against Shawn Michaels and Triple H. D-Generation X. And I remember the segment leading up to the match. There was a backstage segment with Tyson and Hornswoggle. Tyson, I think, was being interviewed. Hornswoggle he was kind of the honorary member, the honorary mascot of DX at the time. He comes into the room, and Tyson kneels down, kind of get down to his size, and that was when he threatened to rip his intestines out and jump rope with it. That's not a line that you forget. I thought that was a great line. He told Hornswoggle in no uncertain terms that if he got involved in his match on that show, he was going to rip his intestines out and jump rope with it. And then late in the match, actually Hornswoggle did come out. Sadly, he did not rip his intestines out and jump rope with it. That would not have been PG, I guess. But the big reveal, Tyson pulled his shirt off. He had a DX shirt on underneath. It was like 1998 all over again, right? The big t-shirt reveal. And he knocked out Chris Jericho with a punch. I guess Jericho learned nothing from WrestleMania 14. Tyson is not a man to be trusted. He trusted this guy to be his partner, and he turned on him, and he went with DX. He wasn't paying attention. So I like that they at least tried to tie it back to that angle. Gave Jericho a reason to harbor this grudge, this ill will against Mike Tyson. Now, was AEW trying to recreate the Tyson and Austin moment? I loved watching some people on social media twist themselves into a pretzel this week trying to explain how it's nothing alike. No. Of course they were. You're full of shit if you think otherwise. That's exactly what they were doing. And Jericho can talk about it on ESPN. No. It's going back to the angle from 2010. Yeah, it is. It's going back to the angle from 2010. But the way they did this segment and they structured this segment on Wednesday, you could just admit it. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. They were clearly trying to replicate Tyson and Austin from Monday Night Raw in 1998, right down to, one of the guys taking a shot, and then there's the big pull-apart brawl. It was a carbon copy of the way they structured that segment in 98. They didn't even try to make that part of it any different. They were trying to have their own Tyson and Austin moment on TNT. Now, the difference is that whole angle in 98 helped rocket a new star into the main event. Austin was already headed there, but they used Tyson in a way that cemented this new megastar for their company. They used it as a way to get Austin even more over. Here, Jericho's already an established star. He's a veteran. He's a legend. And this time, unlike in 98, they may actually be able to get Tyson in the ring for a match. Maybe for a singles match. If they can pull this off, it would be a nice coup for AEW. I don't fault them for trying. I think it will do big business if they can get Tyson in for a pay-per-view match, maybe at All Out. Fyter Fest, that we don't even have a date yet for Fyter Fest, maybe Fyter Fest. I mean, Jericho talked to ESPN. He made it sound, unless he was just working everybody, he made it sound like there's no actual deal yet in place. There's no deal that's been signed to get him in for a match. But he's open to whatever it may be. He goes, it could be a wrestling match. It could be a boxing match. Now I'm having flashbacks to Roddy Piper and Mr. T at WrestleMania 2, which was an awful match. But I do have one very big problem with this, even though I don't fault them for doing the angle. I enjoyed it. I liked the chaos of it at the end. Yes, it's a retread, but I liked it. That being said, I do have one very big problem with this, and I had not seen this video before I went live for my review on Wednesday, or else I would have had something to say about it, but this was not posted online until the following morning, Thursday morning. Henry Cejudo posted a video on his, Twitter or his Instagram. Posted a video backstage right after that segment, right after the show went off the air, showing Tyson and his crew palling around with Jericho. It's like they were high-fiving each other for an angle well done. Like they're all just bosom buddies. This was moments after that show-closing brawl on TV. And Cejudo, he's just holding, like, you see him on camera, and he's just holding the phone up, and in the background, there's Jericho, man, and he's hugging Tyson and talking to the other guys, and I'm watching this. And I want you all to mark this date down, and this episode number down, because I'm going to agree with something that Vince Russo said. He said, pro wrestling's biggest problem is that nothing comes across as real. Nothing. Nothing comes across as real. Nothing comes across as genuine. And then I see something like that, and it really drives that point home. I don't know if he was referring to this angle when he said this. I just saw the quote, or the tweet, or whatever it was. I'm just taking his point in a more general sense. I'm not even just tying it to this. It's kind of a more general point to make. We all know it's entertainment. The curtain, though, has been pulled back so much. You know, when Steve Austin marched to the ring to confront Mike Tyson, I mean, since that's the angle we're copying from here, I'll use that as an example of why it works so well. It's because you could believe that Steve Austin walked around pissed off like that all day long. He had that scowl on his face, he had a chip on his shoulder, and you can really buy into the fact that that's just how this guy was. He was wound up a little too tight, took things very seriously. He walked down there, he had that pissed off walk, that pissed off stare. Very intense. There's an intensity. That's a good word for it. There's an intensity that is lacking in wrestling today. But he was believable. All of his matches, his angles, his segments, his interviews, there was an intensity about them. None of them came across as cornball, not until he was doing the comedy stuff in 2001 when he was hurt. He was hurt, and they wanted to keep him on TV, and they decided to do comedy with him and Kurt Angle and stuff. That's different. Back in like the Attitude Era, there was nothing cornball about anything that Steve Austin did. You could really believe that he really was pissed off that in walks Mike Tyson walking into his world, stealing his spotlight. And then the shove and all hell broke loose. Here, it's a little bit different because Jericho is a heel, but it does come off like a parody of an angle that was done 22 years ago. You need to be smarter about posting things like, and I'm not blaming AEW for this because, I mean, Cejudo, it's his account. He can post whatever he wants. You know, he doesn't work for AEW. He probably didn't know any better. He was probably just genuinely having a good time, right? Maybe one day he wants to be a pro wrestler. Maybe he looks at it and goes, hey, this is fun. I could do this. But you've got to be smarter about posting stuff like that for the whole world to see moments after you just shot this angle on TV. It just takes you right out of it. And Russo is absolutely right on the money. Nothing comes across as real. Nothing. That goes for WWE too. Nothing comes across as real. It's all theater. And I wish we could at least have something that we as fans could buy as being genuine. That is one of the biggest problems with wrestling today. And I say that as somebody who enjoys, some of the more comedic stuff that we see in AEW, but I do think that it is something that is sorely missing from wrestling. And it can never go back to the way it was. Those days are dead. Those days ain't ever coming back. Social media killed those days. There's almost too much access now. Right? You can't undo that. You can't unring that bell. You can't put the genie back in the bottle. I get that. But that doesn't mean you can't try. When I saw that video, I just shook my head. I said, why? Why would you post that? Why would you post that online? Now, of all times, it's all just theater.